Right.
Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. Hope you're doing well. I'm back here in Vegas. I came back, no breaking news, but anticipatory that there will eventually be a press conference here sooner rather than later with AP and to announce the new general manager. I wanted to be here, so I left the hunting trip to be here ready for it. Again, I have no breaking news that any deal is done or anything else. I still expect Champ Kelly to be named the general manager. Um, and I expect this is going to happen sooner rather than later. And I'll get into all of those reasons today of why I believe that. It's experience guided by common sense, number one. And then number two, I've got some really fascinating draft news. Very fascinating. Now, many of you are aware um, that we do a mock draft Monday leading up to the draft every single year. We do it in detail. Um, as far as I know, we were the only media service that even told you about Alex Leatherwood, whether you like the pick or not. And I clearly don't think anybody did. Um, we were the only ones talking about it and about his potential there. In fact, I was on Raider Nation Radio at the time, and we brought on a former Alabama coach to talk about Alex Leatherwood because we had heard so much about the Raiders and their interest in him. So I'm going to have some really fascinating news um, uh, about the Raiders in the draft, just some stuff coming up. But let's quickly get to, again, this is not going to be the longest podcast in the world. Um, just have three primary things to talk about. Um, and then, but obviously anticipatory that whenever the news finally does break, um, we'll of course have another lengthy podcast about how it all settles out. So let's start first of all with experience guided by common sense and why I think that this is coming to an end quickly. I was told by someone that used to work for the Raiders um, when I came here 5 years ago to cover this team. He goes, one thing you need to know about the Raiders is they never do things the easy way. He goes, they'll always find a way of just creating drama or having some type of unnecessary um, trouble. He goes, that's just the way the whole organization has been for a long time. I've got here and we could go over a litany of things that have happened in that time. There are some franchises that just seem to operate um, uh, decently and in order. I think that's a great way to. Then there are some that just kind of beat to their own drum and things happen and nothing you can do about it. The Raiders wanted to hire a GM first. The pressure was mounting from fans and players to hire AP. They could not come to a sense of agreement on the GM. So they went ahead and announced it on Friday. Now, lots of great professional people work at the Raiders. So I've had a couple of people say, why would the PR people do this? That's not on the PR people. They can't control when the owner chooses to do stuff and when the owner chooses not to do stuff. Um, I believe if Mark had um, went to his PR people and said, what's a good time frame for this? Or the point is, he's been an owner long enough. He should have thought about it. I mean, you knew what you really wanted to do. You either say, well, we're going to get a GM first and then do it in decently in an order. But if you're going to announce AP first, then you do it on Thursday or at the latest Friday morning, which for reasons I've already discussed about the Friday news dump. I need to check because this may be a call that I need to take for you. Okay. It is an important call. And it's a call that um, I'll take and I'll answer after the podcast, but it could be something about a future podcast. Apologize about that. Wasn't trying to be disrespectful. Um, And so they went ahead and hired AP. Then it's down to Dods and to Champ Kelly. Now, Ed Dods, very good rising guy. He's been with Indianapolis for 7 years. He was with Seattle for that. He's been in the NFL 21 years. Never been in the general manager's chair. Champ Kelly has. Is not intimately familiar with this team like Champ Kelly is. Um, I hear a lot of people say, "What has Champ Kelly done?" I'm just so frustrated with. I mean, don't make you can do whatever you want, but I don't understand people that just make comments because they want to be heard, or I don't like this hire, so I'm going to come out against it and try to sound smart. If you talk about what has Champ Kelly done, you really make yourself look foolish. Now you can come out and say he's done this, this, and this, but I really want somebody with more experience who's been in the chair. That's a fair argument. I have no issue with that argument. But when you say, what has Champ done? You're literally saying, hey, I'm an idiot. Can you spoon feed me because I don't listen to anybody and I'm too lazy to go off on my own and hear the truth? I mean, when you look at what he did with the Broncos, with Peyton Manning and all of the success they had, when you went and looked at what they actually did in Chicago when he was there, when you looked at the departments that he ran, the things that were done. I mean, I've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm not doing it again. When you look at the things that he was a part of, okay, then you come back and look at the total redevelopment of the Raiders scouting system. When you look at all the things he had his hands in, one of the things that Dave Ziegler personally told me he respected about Champ Kelly was that, Champ knew that he was the assistant, knew that Dave was the general manager, but he always could trust that Champ was going to give him his honest and real opinion, even when he disagreed. Now, a great AGM is there's no delineation between him and the staff. I mean, I've already wrote about the differences between Ziegler and McDaniels. I already wrote about it. I and at length, and Ian Rappaport discussed it, and multiple others. I realize there's some people who disagreed with my reporting. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world at all. If somebody is told something by someone, they're going to report what they know. That's fine. I reported that Devontae Adams was coming to the Raiders. More than one person said, not happening. It's not coming. Okay. Didn't mean that they were bad people. That was probably what they were hearing. I just happened to be hearing it from better sources. And he's here. Same thing happened with Josh McDaniels. When I said Josh McDaniels was a candidate, no, he wasn't. And when I said Josh McDaniels was going to get the job, no, he isn't. He did. Didn't mean people were bad. You don't know who they're listening to. So if somebody says, hey, I really wanted a guy with experience, let's go pay the extra money and make John Lynch the highest paid general manager in the NFL. I'm just using him as an example. So 49er haters, don't blow me up. I'm just using it as an example. Okay, I can see that argument. I can see it. It's germane, but just what did Champ do? My dad used to say, better to be thought a fool than open your mouth and prove it. And so Champ has done a ton. He's super respected around the NFL, a lot like Ron Wolf. I talked with an NFL president yesterday. I think it was yesterday. This is super early in the morning on Monday. It may have been Saturday night, but I think it was yesterday that said, asked me, what are they doing? This is a no-brainer with Champ. Champ wanted AP. Look at the job AP. If AP earned the job and Champ's the one that wanted him, and you look at what he's done for the franchise, this is a no-brainer. But Raiders just seem to make it more difficult on themselves. Now, listen, you may say, man, I like Champ. I prefer Dodds. Both of them have good resumes. Fine. That's legitimate. That's legitimate. But I literally had someone say that only one person, but say almost the same thing about Dods. Why would we consider Dods? What has he done? Well, you sound ignorant. He has a great resume. Do I think for the Raiders he's as good of an option as Champ? Nope. Do I think Champ will end up in that seat? Yes. He's already there. But the point is, if you want to get involved in a discussion, make the discussion germane. Understand, do your research, listen to people who have, give you the information. But what happens is people so badly want to win an argument or be proven correct that when they don't have the information to lay out their position, it just goes into attack mode. I mean, we see it all the time. Dear Lord, I don't care what your politics are. Is there anybody in America that's not tired of political TV? One group constantly just destroying the others. I said to someone the other day, they said, what it was a fan that said, "Hey, what do you think about the election?" I said, people don't turn into my podcast because they want my political opinions. If I want to give my political opinions, then I should get a political podcast or become a political writer. I don't get into it here. I don't think it's proper. Okay. But it's become in politics today that you have people on both sides can't even talk to one another. I was visiting with someone recently who said that they didn't go to Christmas dinner with their family because multiple members of the family disagree with their politics and said, if they come, we're not going to be there. How stupid is that? This is your kinfolk. You can disagree. I'm very adamant about my political beliefs and will never discuss them here. My family's my family. My friends are my friends. I have so many people that disagree with me politically that I just love dearly and cherish. I'm not throwing people away. Well, what happens is if you don't agree with my argument, I'm going to throw you away. Now, I think sports talk shows lend to this because it's just people screaming at each other. I mean, I was trying to listen today to a sports talk show, and one person saying that, Josh Allen is terrible. He'll never be great. He didn't rise to an occasion. And then another person, Josh, what about all the drop passes? Josh Allen's better than Mahomes. And it just turned to name calling. Click. The Raiders need to do this decision. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't want Champ Kelly, then you should be praying that this decision gets done, should have been done a long time ago, because the new guy has to be able to come in, assemble a staff, sit down with AP, discuss numerous issues about style, player. They're going to have to do evaluations because they're not going to want to trust the evaluations that are here now. I'll give you a great one. I have a friend that was a very successful NFL offensive lineman, and he was a very tremendous offensive lineman in a zone scheme. It was his strength. It was his strength. So a new general manager comes in. He doesn't want to run zone. And he comes to this guy and says, listen, I reviewed it. You're a great player. You got a lot of value. I'm going to be trading you because I want to move away from the zone. And there's a couple zone teams that need an offensive lineman at your position that I know we can get maximum value for you. It's not a statement that you're not a great player, just you don't fit our system. Same exact scenario. So you bring in a new GM, they need to sit down and spend, and a champ knows what AP wants. I can tell you right now that Dodds, I'm sure, has an idea of what he wants, but he does not have any lengthy discussion with AP, strategies, plans. That's not something that has been disseminated in great detail. Doesn't mean they haven't had a conversation, but just nothing's been disseminated in detail. So if you're going away from champ, get the guy in now or the gal, get him in now. Why just sit here? How long will you stand between two opinions? It's champ or Dods. Make the decision. The organization looks foolish. It looks foolish. Hang on, I'm making sure this isn't for us. So make your decision. Okay, Mark Davis, you've heard out your committee. You respect your committee. Now you're the owner. Make the decision. To me, this is a no-brainer. You go with champ. If they go outside of champ, and I will write about it and talk about it in detail, it just hurts the organization. Now, the longer it goes, I think it helps champ even more because he's in the chair. He's doing the job. And it keeps moving. So again, it goes back to Harbaugh AP. I thought AP should get the job. But anybody that dismissed Jim Harbaugh, and you saw it there, he's terrible. He sucks. Come on. Jim Harbaugh doesn't suck as a coach. The guy's a proven winner. That just was dumb. Don't be that person. Don't be that person, not just with your Raiders. Don't be that person with anybody in your life. If somebody disagrees with you, listen to what they say. I have people all the time say, Hondo, I wish you wouldn't listen to your critics. No, I think it's important to. I don't need them to love me. I'm not sitting here with a ego that's hurt. Oh, somebody doesn't love me. No, don't care. But I think it's important to listen to people. We have lost the art of listening. We've just become, we just yell at everybody. We just yell at them. I the other day saw a parent whose kid is running through the airport like an animal. It's running through the airport, screaming at him. And I thought to myself, you look like the idiot. If you had disciplined your child and taught your child how to behave and behave in public, they wouldn't be doing that. Now you want to yell at them because they embarrassed you? Give me a break. Again, don't be that person. Be somebody that can talk to people, listen to people. Okay. I'll give you another one. I like a quarterback that has some mobility. I've said that numerous times. I don't like one that runs too quickly. Listen, I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback with Cincinnati, but I've told you before, and I've had other people tell me this, I think he takes off too quick. Josh Allen, he's a guy that he is sneaky. He will stay in the pocket, stay in the pocket, stay in the pocket, and then run. And if you looked at all his yards, you'd think, man, he runs too quick. He doesn't. Josh Allen is a stud. Okay. Mahomes is the best. He is phenomenal the way he stays in the pocket till the very last second. Okay. I like all of that. But are you telling me Tom Brady wasn't a great quarterback? He was. And I think he got better when he found his mobility a little bit. People knew, all right, he's not the fastest guy, but you got to take into account he may run. There was no wimp in Tom Brady. But to act like, it's just like people who will just randomly say, well, AP, he was a rah-rah guy. Okay. See, you're never going to fix stupid. So don't get in an argument with stupid people. But be a person that can listen and have a germane discussion. You may learn a lot. There's a lot to learn. That's one thing I love about the game of football. The more I'm around it, and I've been around it my whole life, but the more I'm around it and around the great ones, you learn so much. You learn so much. And it's like Mark Davis. Why does he want consensus? I was told by somebody who knows Mark very well that he was raised around the chaos that was the Raiders. and that he wants consensus. He wants things to be in unity because the Raiders weren't for so long. There was, I mean, go back and look at Al and Lane and Al and other coaches. Well, there's that dissension. He wanted that unity. You know what? I think that's honorable of Mark Davis. I think that's honorable. He loves his dad, but he looks and says, okay, you know what? I want to maybe do things a little different. Okay. I was talking to Mark Davis one time and he told me, you know, one of the criticisms my dad had of me was he thought I was too close to the players. He listened to him. Now, clearly, he takes a little bit of a different approach, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But to just clearly dismiss people and to not know why they feel that way. You know, I had somebody yesterday on Twitter, and I don't remember who it was, made a comment about Champ, and all I put was, wow. I'm just like, unbelievable. At least do some research. Just, well, you know, my opinion is okay, well, your opinion without information, in my opinion, without information is worthless. So that is what's going on right now. No decision as of the taping, which is early Monday morning, has yet to be made. There is dissension. Someone asked me, do you think there is a possibility that if the group can't decide on Champ or Dods, that maybe they go to a different candidate that they all can agree on? I certainly think that's a possibility. My good buddy Tashawn Reed of The Athletic reported that there were a couple of people still possibly in it. And by the way, what a good reporter Tashawn is. What a good guy, too. I wish you all could know him. Really, really good guy. So do I think there's that possibility? Yes, but I think it's so minuscule. I think it's Dodds or Kelly, and I still expect Kelly to get the job. Again, it's just based on education, or excuse me, experience, based on education, based on information. That's what I think. Could totally be wrong. That's why I'm not reporting it as a definitive at all. Just give that's a Hondo hunch. All right, I want to go to the draft because there is a player. Now, you all may remember. Um, I mentioned Alex Leatherwood. You know, we were the only ones talking about Alex Leatherwood. We were talking about Kalijah Cansey last year, who the Raiders loved. Loved Kalijah Cansey. They didn't like him. They loved him. He was very high on their draft board. And you see what he's doing for the Bucs. Um, there was another guy on the board, an offensive lineman from North Dakota that they really, really liked that got picked right in front of them. I know for a fact last year, the Dolphins loved, not the Dolphins, the Broncos loved Aiden O'Connell and were trying to get up to get him when the Raiders selected him. So draft information is very important. Now, I get my draft information, for those of you that weren't following last year, from several sources. Number one, I talked to scouts of a ton of different teams. I talked to coaches at a ton of different colleges. I talked to other NFL people, talked to people with the Raiders, and I want to find out. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Last year, I was told at the combine, um, that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were the two guys that the Raiders were given a ton of attention to. I learned at the combine that the Raiders had looked at the cost to move up to one, and they could have, by the way. Or let me rephrase that. The Raiders knew what the cost was, and the Raiders knew what it would cost to get to one. I know that factually. I was told that. by a senior member of management. This is what number one would cost. That's too high. They also knew what the cost would be to get up to number two. It was also very high. I learned shortly after the combine by someone at another team that Josh McDaniels was very much like Bryce Young. And that same person told me that Dave Ziegler was a big CJ Stroud guy. Or I was actually told Dave and the scouting department are big on CJ. That was the exact wording. All right. So I asked, was told it's correct. I asked another party, was told that's correct, and was asked, please just don't report it. Not, not looking to cause any stress or drama. And at that point, it wasn't a big enough deal for me to report. And it was just basically asked, you know, we don't want people knowing what we want to do in case we have a chance to trade the pick and it would hurt the Raiders. Now, I can tell you this as a journalist, I don't hold any. I've had lots of stories people ask me not to report that I report, but I don't do things that will be harmful to the organization. Okay. I'll give you an example. I hinted multiple times, not hinted, I talked about there being disagreements between Josh and Dave, but I never got into the details until after they were here. I'm not out to hurt the Raiders. I know reporters who get information and just dump it real quick because it's about clicks and then hurt the organization. I don't think that's smart. Many of you saw me on NFL Network when they did a football life on Matt Millen. And when Matt Millen was running the Detroit Lions, you've heard me tell the story about how Steve Mariucci was hired and Matt got fined 200 grand. And Matt said to me, please don't report this. It's just going to cause division between me and those above me. And I just want the Lions to succeed. Okay. I thought, that's fair. And then when Matt was no longer there and I was allowed to report it, he just asked me not to use the name of the person. He doesn't want to hurt people. I respect that. One day, and you'll know when that day is, I have a lot I'm going to say, but not at this moment. So I knew that the Raiders were split. I also knew that Josh McDaniels was going to have the say. Now, Mark Davis also said to Tashawn, which in a great piece that Tashawn did at the latest owners meeting, that Dave had final say. Whether he chose to use it or not is a different story. Mark never disagreed with my reporting at all. At all. And so to me, all I reported last year was there was one quarterback that the Raiders would move up and take. And I didn't even expect them to move up because the cost was expensive. But if that person dropped to where they were, they would take the one quarterback. People would say to me, what quarterback is it? I'd say, not going to get into it. But there was one, and that was Bryce. Why? So let's say that somebody thought it was CJ. Oh, okay, they're going to take Bryce. We don't need to trade up. And the Raiders last year wanted to trade their pick. Their desire last year was to trade down, pick up an additional one or two picks, and pick Kalijah Kancey. That was their mindset last year. And when they couldn't find anybody willing to pay the price of what they valued, what was there, they took Tyree. That's how the draft works. You know what you value your picks at. So if somebody's willing to come in and pay you more than what the pick's value is, you always sell the pick. Well, 99 out of 100 times you sell the pick. So let's get to this year. I have heard from numerous scouts and numerous people around the league and at Alabama, or used to be at Alabama, that the Raiders have been giving a ton of attention to uh, right tackle J.C. Latham. Now, let me tell you about Latham. He's 6'6". He's 360 pounds. He has a motor now, a motor. Um, I was told that Max Crosby has a defensive lineman motor, which is seek and find like a missile. Offensive lineman motor is a little bit different. Offensive lineman motor, you're not out seeking and killing. You're holding a spot. I was told by someone very close and very high up at the time in the Alabama program that Nick Saban believes this was, if not the best, one of the best right tackles he has ever coached. They thought he had the sustainability and what is the word I'm looking for? The sustainability and the word will come to me in a minute. The sustainability and the longevity, but that's not the word. There's something else of a Flozell Adams that reminded everybody. In fact, I know several people who were around Flozell and Latham that both told me that he was very similar, and in that this is a pick and play right guard. He steps in there day one like Dylan Parham at right guard and instantly competes. I was told by another guy that he thought he had the bulk of Flozell with the athleticism of Jack Conklin. Now, Jack's a good buddy of mine. But that is what they think of Latham, that this is a guy you go pick and play. It's not sexy. It's not getting Marvin Harrison, or it's not, getting Drake May or whomever. But at 13, if you don't move up, you're getting an instant starter with a potential, year two All-Pro. And so this is a guy that has been getting a ton of attention from the Raiders. So I want you to just keep that out there. This is a guy that I think, and again, who the scouts are watching and all that. It's just like last year, we knew about Kalijah Kancey. We knew they loved Kalijah. I had Kalijah on this podcast, and he's that good. And that Latham is a guy that the Raiders really, really like. Now, this is why the new GM deal. So let's say the new GM comes in and says, no, I want a quarterback. I'm a Caleb Williams guy. All right. He's the general manager. So you got to go back. You got to do you got to change your scouting. Then you got to go make sure, okay, does my style mesh? Or am I going to make my head coach change to my style? So, but Latham is a guy. Now we've got a list right now of probably 60 players. I'm guessing it could be 55, it could be 65 or 68. And we've been doing a couple of these reviews every day at our site, si.com/NFL/Raiders, giving you draft previews of guys that we know. 2 of the last 3 years, every Raider pick in the draft, we had previewed. So, we stay very connected with it, and I just wanted you to know that. But Latham is a guy right now that if I was doing my mock draft and not mocking him, and when I do my mock, I never mock trades. Well, that's not true. I never mock trades if I believe the franchise's opinion is to stay put. I will start mocking drafts if I think there's a chance that they move up. Having said that, I think right now, if the draft was today and Champ was running the draft, the Raiders would stay at 13 and take Latham. Now, that can change by who other teams take, who trades up and moves up. That's phenomenal when you start looking at that. I talked with a scout yesterday who thinks there is four, potentially seven first round graded offensive linemen. That's a lot, a lot. And he said to me, again, you guys know why I'm checking my phone for text. He said to me, um, and I could see none of them going in the first six picks. And he told me, he goes, there's two of them right now that I think in other years would have been the first round pick. I mean, number one overall. Another thing that you're going to learn is that in the draft, um, most NFL teams use the term dude. And a dude is a guy that's a can't miss. And when you are in the NFL draft and you're moving up, it better be for a dude, not to speculate. It better be for a dude. Okay. The Raiders, and I told you guys this last year, Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson were the two guys in last year's draft that every team I spoke to had them as a dude. Okay. If you looked at every mock draft, nobody, okay, I'm sure somebody did, but for the most part, nobody had Tyree falling to the Raiders. Okay. The Raiders thought he was a dude. They were thrilled to get him. In fact, I reported this last year. There was an eruption of cheers and excitement in the Raider war roar room when Tyree fell. So I'm going to, and I told you all that before the draft. I will be after the combine. When I talk to a bunch of people, I'll start telling you who the dudes are. I will tell you this: there are some people that think Caleb Williams is a can't miss, and there are a lot of people that think he is not a first round talent. There are a lot of people that think Daniels from LSU is a uh, can't miss guy. But there's a lot of guys that think he could be, just like Caleb could be, but there are too many risks to do it in the first round. But yet no one thinks either one of those guys gets past number six. One of the things that I do when I'm doing my draft analysis is I want to look what type of organization. Okay, so I'm not going to name a name, but let's say an organization has a history of swinging, missing. Okay, so your evaluation on players is not as high as maybe a team that, okay, if somebody from the Packers, and I know some people there, tells me we think this quarterback is a number one can't miss guy. Okay, my ears perk up because they have a track record of success, especially if it's somebody who's been there for any amount of time. There are other teams that seem to always be picking quarterbacks and never succeeding. Jacksonville. If somebody from there tells me, now not somebody new, but somebody who was around there before says to me, hey, we really like this guy, I'm not going to wait that as much as. And so I'm constantly looking at, and so when I bring you who my dudes are, if there's a consensus, great. If there's not, I'm always going to offer you those who are at the best drafting place. Real quick, um, I Kalijah Kancey last year. I had a couple of teams that had him as a dude. I think three, maybe four, but everybody had him as a consensus um, best defensive tackle or second best, but everybody had him there. And I think he proved in his rookie year. I mean, Will Anderson's proven to be a dude. Tyree, injury issues, which we knew at the time and reported it, held him back a little bit, but he was coming on at the end, and I think he's going to have a monster sophomore campaign. So that is the draft information about J.C. Latham. I thought that you would really, really want, and wanted to present that to you. So yeah, there you go. That's today's podcast. Again, at the time of this taping, no decision's been made between Champ and with Dods. I'm expecting it. I expected it last week. I mean, you interviewed both guys last week. Come on, Pooper, get off the pot. But which I expected at any moment. And then I wanted to share the draft information. Got a lot more stuff coming tomorrow too, but I got to start answering these phone calls, and I got to start um, doing my job, getting a bunch of information. So thank you, everybody. Remember, this is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast back here in Vegas. Make sure, additionally, follow me on Instagram, uh, Hondo SR, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter. We'll see you all there. And don't forget, si.com/NFL/Raiders. Click on the newsletter button at the top right. Never miss another article. We'll see you all again.